personally honored today because I've spoken to Lana before. And not only does she have an incredible history with everything Bond and some amazing stories that you're going to hear today, but she's a nice person to boot. Isn't that a nice bonus when that happens? So we're going to take a lot of people's questions today, but this is the age of social media, and we actually have people who online are going to be asking questions as well. So we're gonna see where this goes. It could go very dark. I apologize. And also to the left of Lana, we have Ed Maggiani.
Hey.
Ed Maggiani is.
See, you got to play to the crowd.
Sure. Absolutely. Ed is a star in his own right, and actually has for many, many years been associated with Bond history by creating Bond props, Bond replicas, and even been associated with Bond licenses. And that's part of the discussion we're going to have today is, you know, all three of us on the panel have had some association with Bond. The reality is though you probably all have as well, because you're in this panel. So that means you have some sort of interest, you've been brought up and swept up in the whole history of it. So Lana, right off the bat, we've got to ask the question that probably you get asked, and it's become a cliche, but how did you get the part of a Bond girl?
I received a phone call and said would I consider meeting with Cubby Broccoli and Guy Hamilton for the next James Bond film. And I said absolutely, and a time was set, and I showed up, and they said look tall, which is a cute trick for me because I'm 5'2½". And I said, well, okay, I'll try. And I went and chatted with them. They're lovely guys, and left. And shortly thereafter, I was on a plane going to start another film out here in New Jersey. And I got a call from my agent and said, you know, they want you to be in the film. Would you consider playing Plenty of Two? And I said, absolutely, it'd be my pleasure.
So they knew right off the bat who you were going to play. It wasn't a nebulous some Bond.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I went out. They wanted me to play Tiffany Case.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they wanted me to play Tiffany Case, and then some politics entered into it, and they gave the role to someone else and said, would I consider doing Plenty of Two? And I said, absolutely, absolutely. Didn't even hesitate.
Which is a better character?
Hudson. Okay.
Well, we're happy you did.
Thank you.
Now, I remember having a conversation with you, and I found this very interesting, but everybody remembers the character of Plenty O'Toole, whether it's because of certain assets that the character brought to the table, or...
Dice?
Well, it was the dice.
Oh, okay.
It was a pair of dice, yes. Or, you know, just what you brought to the role.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But you had told me, and I think it's an interesting story, that your role, what was filmed, was much longer than what actually showed up on film.
Oh, absolutely. I was devastated. Plenty, first of all, didn't just leave the crap table and go up to his suite. She wasn't the sharpest marble, but, you know, they went and had dinner and chatted, and then when she thought that the lady playing the harp was gaining attention, she suggested that they go up to his suite. When she comes out, when she's thrown into the pool and then comes out, she goes back to the suite to get her clothes, excuse me, and finds him in bed with Tiffany Case, finds her wallet, driver's license, checks that, thinks, she's horning in on my guy, goes to Tiffany Case's house to wait for her to confront her, but she gets bored and starts trying on the wigs. Bad guys come in, think it's Tiffany Case, tie my ankles to block the cement and throw me in the pool. Again.
Okay. But this time permanently.
Yes,
My
exactly.
gosh.
So all of that was cut out, which is really unfortunate because it made a lot more sense.
Right.
You know, but
now luckily, on some of the DVDs, some of the newer ones, those lost scenes are there.
Yeah,
so a lot of the Bond fans, I'm sure, have seen that particular cutscene. But it would have been great. Now, I remember you telling me the way you found that out is when you went to the premiere.
No, I didn't even go to the premiere. They sent me on a world tour. I went all over, starting with Japan was my first stop. I was gone for close to 6 weeks, traveling all over the place. I came back home and with a couple of my friends went to the Gorman's Chinese to watch the film. It wasn't even the premiere. And I got popcorn and I got my drinks and everything, and I set everything down on the ground and watching, and I leaned over and I picked up my popcorn and I sat up and I went, I'm dead? I'm dead? What happened to everything in between? I was astounded. Yeah, I had no idea, because if I had known that they'd cut the part so much, I don't know that I would have gone on tour. I was very embarrassed.
Well,
but it doesn't matter.
And you know, the reality is James Bond doesn't have the only danger in these films. There were 2 incidences that you actually did your own stunts.
Yes.
The first one, many people don't realize this, the fall.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
That was me.
That was you.
That was me. We did it in 3 different takes.
Okay.
But the first one was out of the first floor window, right onto a mattress. So they dumped me out of the window. Sid Haig dumped me out of the window, and I fell on a mattress. And then we moved to another hotel where they had constructed a big platform with a good sturdy 6-foot stuntman. And I stood on his shoulders, and he would push me upward and lean back so that the fall was accurate. So it didn't look like I was jumping in the water.
Right.
I had to be falling into the water. So that was then another 16 feet that was me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I remember coming, it doesn't seem like a lot, but you really don't, I did not enjoy the fall. And then I came out and they said, okay, let's do it one more time. And I was like, because it's called dry the hair, redo the makeup, redo the hair, and go back again.
We're never going to watch that scene the
I
same
know.
way again.
And I was a nervous wreck too, because here I am in a little pair of blue panties.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, no, you've got nothing to worry about. By the time we get to this shot, it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning and nobody will be around. It was Las Vegas. Nobody goes to bed.
Of course.
And as I climbed up on that platform, I looked at all the way around all the glass windows, all these people watching. I was like, jeez.
And that was a problem that they had. I remember, and you and I have talked about this, when they were doing the car stunt scenes, they had tons of observers and spectacle people. They just said, you know what, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's too late, let's just keep filming.
Yeah, exactly.
Now there's a second danger when you were on with a cement block at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was, actually, I would be telling stories out of school. I mean, I don't want to give away all these technical tricks that we have in movies. But, so what they actually did was they tied my ankles to a block of cement.
Okay, so that's what they did.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a real block of cement, and they just tied my ankles to it. But I had to be positioned so that my hair was fanning out on the top of the water for the line. What is my wig doing in the pool?
Right.
So what they did is they strung a rope across the pool, and when I would hear the camera stop, the underwater camera, I would lift up, raise my mouth and nose up out of the water to breathe by point on the rope. But what nobody realizes as time went by, because where I was positioned, is the block kept moving deeper and deeper and deeper, and there came a point when I couldn't reach the rope to clear myself, to breathe. Yeah, and people went.
But there were divers there or anything?
A couple of the guys jumped in and got me loose right away, but I was okay. And then that's when I had suggested to them that I'm a certified scuba diver, and that if they would get a tank for me, and I could just use that, and wouldn't have to. And they said no, they didn't want to go with that because of the hair gag. So we had to drag. They had to drag the block back up and keep trying. Yeah.
And this is, I promise the audience, and certainly a lot of this is going to sound very creepy, but one of my hobbies is I collect movie memorabilia, screen use pieces, costumes from the James Bond film. So I have to ask you, do you still have the dress, the panties?
No.
Are you sure? Do you want to look? Because I've got cash. It's awkward.
No.
Oh, you don't? She looked.
I'm sorry, you didn't ask me to do that?
No, I did. So they took all that back.
Oh, yeah, that's not, the wardrobe is not for you to keep.
Yeah.
You just use it and that's it. Usually by the time you finish with wardrobe, no matter how lovely it is, you're so sick and tired of wearing the same things. You don't want to see the stuff
You just want to get
ever. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what show you're doing, you get very tired of the wardrobe.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we grab some questions
Please
from
do.
online here?
Please do.
So we actually have Carl Flood from Ireland who is asking,
Ireland.
do you have any stories and what was it like to work with Sean Connery?
I knew Sean and I were friends before I started on the film, so that was sort of a plus for me, because when you go into a film, it's like, it's a big family, and the crew has worked together before, and various people, and Guy Hamilton was a favorite director, and you don't know what you're stepping into, so I was delighted that Sean would be there, and it was someone that I knew. He was terrific to work with. Sean, as long as you broke before the sun sets and he could go get in a couple of rounds of golf, he was fine, but he had to hit the golf course.
Right.
But I adore Sean. I adore him. It's terrific.
That's great. Have you seen him since then?
Yes, and I saw him. My sister ended up doing a film with Sean, and then she invited him for Thanksgiving dinner, which we all had together at her house. It was fun. But at that point, he had married Micheline, and and I was with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Things had changed. I had a child at that point. Things were a lot different.
Absolutely.
But and then I spoke with Sean. He was very sweet. Not too long ago, because I was doing a mini-series, a special event mini-series for ABC called Mystery of Natalie Wood, and we were filming different people from different parts of her life who could say a few things. And I called Sean and asked him if he could do it. We tried desperately to set it up, but every place we were, he wasn't. And it was just too costly for us to try to chase him down in the Bahamas and set up and film there. We were hoping that, perhaps he was in New York or he was, someplace. And we filmed in Sydney, Australia.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There again to save money.
It's interesting because a lot of the brands, especially Japanese brands today that utilize him for magazine ads, Louis Vuitton did an ad with him. He mandates that they come to the Bahamas to his house.
Oh yeah.
He'll film and take pictures on his deck.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So they really have to stay within the parameters of doing that.
Yeah.
But he's such an incredible person, they're willing to do that.
He's a character.
Jeff Carmichael from Minnesota, very far off. What other movies did the Bond franchise, once you did it, help you get? So did it help, I guess, spur on your career?
Oddly enough, not really. I got some terrific reviews and like very positive reactions, but no, I went off and did an independent film and went basically back into television, which is where my base was. My base was TV.
Right. Interesting. Scott Taylor, who I've got to tell you, he's actually in the audience.
Oh,
So
raise your hand.
There you go,
Scott.
Scott Taylor. Do you remember what your question is? Or?
Yeah, you want me to answer?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So I was interested when you first read the script and you realized that your name was Plenty O'Toole. What did you think about the name? And then, as you think about the other Bond girl names,
I thought it was wonderful. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. A dear friend of mine who I've known since I was, 14 years old, wrote the screenplay, Tom Mankiewicz. So I called Tom and I said, "You're a bad guy." I said, "No, I love it. I love the name. I thought it was terrific." I signed that name. I write Plenty O'Toole as often as I write Lana Wood. It's always like, "Could you add your yes?" Plenty O'Toole.
Sure, you have your own signature for that.
Yes,
right?
yes, very much so.
I have to admit that his line that he says after that, I'm taking after your father,
Right.
I didn't get that until I was an adult. Maybe that's good.
Good, yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say
that-
good.
yeah,
Yes,
that's-
that's better that way.
Kid-friendly as well. Robert Sterling from Paris. What other Bond girl role would you have liked to have played in the series, now that you've seen
Wow.
all the different James Bond films? Which one might you covet? You didn't know you'd be quiz.
I know. I'm thinking. Judi Dench's.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I agree. Such a powerful character.
Right.
Amazing. Amazing. What a legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Scott Lavere If you were offered a part now in the franchise, would you take it?
In a heartbeat.
Right.
In a heartbeat. When I was asked to do it, I really wanted to be a part of it. I didn't care what role I was going to play.
Right.
But it wasn't because I was a movie fan, it's because I read all the books. I was an Ian Fleming fan.
Right. That's right.
And that meant a lot to me. I was like, this is wonderful because that whole genre, all those books were my fantasy as well, because books take you away. And it's something that drew me. You know, I don't think it was just a male thing. I love those books.
So this one is multi-part. You can answer as little or as much as you want.
Oh, good.
Lisa Rappaport from New York City asks, can you comment on what you think of each of the Bond actors? You told us a little bit already about Sean.
Well, I can, but there again, I mean, it's my opinion. Roger, when Roger Moore took over, I mean, Roger is a personal friend, and I adore Roger. He's funny, he's great to work with, he's relaxed, and he's a terrific guy. I thought he was dreadful as James Bond. When I went to the theater and saw the first one he did, I walked out, and I did not see any more Bond films.
What was it about his portrayal that you said?
The punches were laughable. I throw a better punch than he does. And there again, I love Roger. Please understand, I love him. I didn't see him. He's not tough. Roger is very drawing room, and he's very funny, and he's very sophisticated. He's not a killer.
Yeah.
He's not 007. I wouldn't worry about being in a room with him. But Sean Connery, you go, uh-oh. Same thing with Daniel Craig. Uh-oh. This is someone who you look at, and he's got that rough edge that James Bond needs. He was not supposed to be sitting in a drawing room, sipping. I mean, I love that line that they gave Daniel Craig where he says, you know, vodka martini, and the guy says, shake it or stir it. He said, do I look like someone who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and he shouldn't.
Yeah.
The Broccoli family are very, very clever, and I think they know what's going on today. And I think they cast correctly, and I think they did a hell of a job. They were very lucky to get Daniel Craig. I think he's fabulous. Oh, you got a picture of me and George on the plane. That's funny. We were horsing around.
If you, unfortunately, it's hard to see it from the cheap seats back there. This is, what did you think of him as Bond?
He was fine. George was, you know, George was better, but I was such a Connery fan that nobody was quite. But George was good. Just there again, there's something, you know, that we talk about as far as actors in general. For me, it's not so much a pretty face. It's a charisma, and it's a quality that draws you in. And Bond has to be, Bond is a tough guy.
He is.
You know, he's a tough guy.
People sometimes forget that James Bond is an assassin.
Exactly.
He should seem like he could kill you.
That's right.
I grew up on Roger Moore. I was born in '68, so
Right.
Roger Moore was James Bond. And then
Yeah.
I remember my father, the first picture I went to go see was Moonraker, and then came back home, we started watching Sean Connery, and I
Right.
loved him.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sean could move like a cat. You know, he
Yeah.
had this movement
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
With Daniel Craig, and I've met Daniel Craig twice, and he is an imposing individual. It's not that he's
Yes.
tall,
No, he's right.
but he takes up the room.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yes,
It's
I
just,
do.
he's
I
got
know
that
exactly what you
presence.
mean. Yep.
And
That's what it's all about.
Pierce Brosnan.
Drawing room. I
Okay.
know. Not
Right.
for me.
Yeah,
Not for long.
yeah, I understand.
Timothy Dalton, terrific actor, not James Bond.
Right.
It's either Sean Connery or Daniel Craig.
I get it.
Or perhaps Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That's right.
That's the scuttlebutt at the moment.
That is, and he's denying it left and right.
I
both of
know. But did anybody ever watch Luther? Did the BBC see? Have you ever in your life seen a show as good as that? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible. He's amazing. There again, he's not a pretty boy, but he has that charisma and that strength that draws you in. And who knows, maybe he'd make a fantastic James Bond.
I think so.
I would leave anybody I was seeing for Idris Elba. I'm gone. I'd say, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm out of here.
That's fantastic. So with all of the hype and excitement around Spectre, I mean, the first trailer comes out and the teasers and everything, do you start to get an excitement and just nostalgia?
I want to see it very badly.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I'm not. Some of my dearest friends in this world are Maud Adams, who was in the Bond film, Martine Beswick, and Caroline Munro. These are all my very, very dear friends. We love each other dearly. We spend a lot of time together. I haven't seen any of those films. I'm not a Bond expert.
Right.
People will come up to me all the time and say, "What did you think about my guy?" I didn't see it.
Right.
It was a job. It was my role. It was my job, and that's what I did. And I did not care for the films afterward. Not until Casino Royale, Daniel Craig.
Is that right? That was the first one you really had.
Well, that grabbed me, yeah. Maud and I, it's funny, Maud and I were together not too long ago, and we had to go to a screening of one of her Bond films, and we sat there, you know, she waved high, and I waved high, and we sat down, and we lasted for about 10 minutes, and she said, "Can we go?" And I said, "Oh God, can we please?" I'd be so thrilled. I mean, from the cheesy looking sets to the cinematography to the, I was miserable.
There's some tough moments.
Yeah.
There's some tough moments.
Yeah.
So I've got to tell you, it's interesting you say Casino Royale. When I have a person who is either never seen a Bond film, which is unbelievable to all of us.
I know.
Or
I thought it was illegal, that and the surgeries.
It is.
You can't tell people that you've never seen that
actually
because you
deport
can
you,
be
don't they?
arrested.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea.
They do.
Frightening.
But what will happen is, ultimately, I'll either suggest or show them Casino Royale.
Absolutely.
Because it's...
I got it on my iPad.
Stop
I'll watch
it.
Casino Royale. Okay.
Do you really?
Yeah.
No, you can keep them.
I got it on my phone. I got it on my iPad. I'll watch Casino Royale anytime.
Well, because it's got everything. It's got
Fabulous.
the emotion, it's got the drive, it's got all those Bond components, but
Right.
it's a love story.
But
too.
it has depth.
It does. It
I
does.
mean, it's a terrific movie. Love that movie.
Absolutely. Now, I want to give people out there, does anybody have a question?
I have a two-part question real quick.
Okay.
A, do we know why Daniel Craig won't do any more in series, which is, he should be arrested. He was so great. My favorite Bond short of song. And two, have you ever confided in Roger Moore that you really didn't like him?
Roger is so funny. Roger just laughs. He agrees, you know. He agrees. He doesn't think he was a terrific Bond either. He's a very.
But he enjoyed doing
he's
it.
a very. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And Craig is signed for another one or two, possibly. The problem that it's a scuttlebutt on the sets right now is that he is getting older. He's 47, and his injuries keep getting worse. He was flown to New York in April, and he had to get a shave of his meniscus because of an injury in Mexico. So each film, he hurt his elbow in Quantum of Solace. He hurt himself in Skyfall. His lower back. He's got some vertebrae issues. So as much as I think he would want to continue, you know, the mind is willing. We'll have to see.
I don't know.
Do we think he'll do one more? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do we know he'll do one more, or
I
that's
think he
still
will.
Yeah.
I think what's happening right now is, according to some of the production people, they're going to try to film the other one without waiting that long expanse in between. They got all the legal issues with McClory done, with MGM and Sony done, so hopefully they can fill it a little bit sooner. But yeah, we're all hoping. It's a great try.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
When you show up to do a role like Plenty O'Toole, do they just let you go, or does the director stand there and tell you how to be sexy?
You know what? It depends on the director. When I worked on this film, I'll back around that question a little bit. Maud Adams and I were having dinner, and I said, all of a sudden, you know, we were talking about the Bond thing, and I said, "You worked with Guy Hamilton. Guy Hamilton directed you in one of the Bond films." She said, "Yes." I said, "Did he ever give you any direction whatsoever? Did he ever say anything to you?" She said, "No." I said, "Wow, I'm so relieved," because he never said anything to me either. I came up to him the first day that we were getting ready to shoot, and I said, "Guy, you know, this is my idea about her, because I'm very concerned, because I have a very deep voice, and I didn't want her to come off as a sex pot, and you know, so, and I said there were various concerns that I had. I want her to be likable, I want to try and do this, and I want to do this and this, and I went on and on and on, and he said, and I said, how do you feel about that? And he said, do whatever you want. And that was it, and we never spoke again. You know, we spoke afterwards. I'd have dinner with he and his wife, and you know, with Sean, and we'd go out and we'd do stuff, but we never talked about it. It depends on the director. I've done television shows, episodes of The Long Hot Summer, with a director by the name of Mark Rydell, who has directed, I don't know if you guys are familiar with who he is, but he's a phenomenal director. And he will give you things all the way to minutia. There was a scene where he would say, pick up that dish rag there, that prop, and clean the countertop as you're doing your lines. Clean, make sure it's completely clean. And let's try that, and let's see how that changes. And it does. So, I mean, there are directors that get into physicality. There are directors that get into the character, what they are looking for in that character. And those are the ones I really like to work with. You know, because I like getting the input, because somebody can say, you know, try blue, and that reminds me that, wow, and then after blue comes green, and you know, it's one step after another step after another step, and it brings out better things in your characterization. So I adore working with directors that are really involved. If I didn't want a director, I'd, you know, go make films in my backyard. And I love Guy. He's a sweet man. I just heard from him. He's in Mallorca and was having dinner and thought of me and sent me a little note via email and everything. And he's an adorable guy, but he didn't care what you did. It didn't matter at all.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, it's so, they say that Sam Mendes is very much a type of director that he'll stop production and have a discussion with his actor. And literally, though, what he does is he goes off script and tells a story about things happening around him that isn't in the script.
Sure.
So Bond may have to do this, but it's like, here's what's happening down the back alley.
But that's something that the actor should be doing. You build a character. Who is she? What is she like? What songs does she listen to?
Yeah.
How would she dress? How would she react like this? Who is she? Now, mind you, you cannot portray feelings you've never had. Not honestly.
Right.
So you do have to draw, you have to put yourself into that situation, but build a character, absolutely. Plenty was not smart, but she was very sweet, she was very ingenuous.
Yeah.
Plenty was, you know, very upfront about everything. Otherwise, I felt she isn't a character you would bring home to mom. What do you do for a living? I'm Michelle. Excuse me, this is not an attractive profession. Therefore, I was trying to make her as likable as humanly possible by making her not terrifically righteous, just that's what she does.
And it works.
Bag groceries, or you know, what I want you to do, honey, is go and lean across the table and make sure that these guys spend money. Okay.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
As far as the character goes, yeah.
And it works, and it's very, she comes across as very genuine.
Yes,
In kind of a
yes.
Which I think is why her death is so, you know, appalling when you see it, because,
Right.
you know, you fall in love with her so quickly.
Yeah.
She's very endearing. She seems to genuinely like Bond, which is
Yes.
probably a jealousy
Oh,
factor
yeah.
in there. And by the way, so here's my own personal question. I'm going to show you this
Oh.
picture. What's the story with that?
Oh, I was in paradise. That was so wonderful.
So this is Lana with a picture from the very back. Of course it did. So I know, in the cheap seats it's so hard to see. But, she's laying by a pool with a lover, right? Yeah, just hanging out.
Yeah.
So what happened?
A photographer that I'd worked with before called me, and the Italian by the name of Pierluigi. He's very, very well known. If you guys Google Pierluigi, and it's all one word, he called me and said, I'd like to do for this Italian magazine, how are you with big animals? I said, no problem, fine. And he said, big cat. I said, okay. And that's what he showed up with, was a big cat. You know, I've got pictures of myself walking him down the street. I've got one picture on my iPad with I was stroking his throat.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, that
You look
was
happy.
wonderful. I worked. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I was in paradise. I worked with him all day long.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the Bond brand. Let's talk about the Bond brand. And Ed, you're getting pulled in, my friend.
Come on,
You're
Ed.
not going to get away
Look in
with
here.
not this. So the Bond brand. You had mentioned earlier that you were on tour. So did you go around tour as a Bond girl on tour? And so you were kind of branded as a Bond girl.
The first country I went to was Japan, and the first day at my hotel, I was supposed to do this press thing. I don't even remember what the heck it was for, but they wanted it in the grounds of the hotel, which were very pretty. And I showed up for the pictures, and I was wearing a French Connection skirt and tall boots and a turtleneck sweater, which I adore to this day. And they got very upset, and they said, but this is not Plenty O'Toole. And I said, no, no, no. Plenty O'Toole is who I play in a film. This is Lana Wood, and this is how I dress. I don't dress like that.
Right.
That's not who I am. So whereas I was sent all over the world, I went as me, but, you know, promoting the film.
You know, it's interesting too because there is a certain image, there's a certain brand essence or an experience that people think of when they think of a Bond or a Bond.
Well, even more so then than
Yeah.
now. You know, obviously they still hire, you know, people that they think are
Absolutely.
attractive and sexy, but it was different then.
And speaking of sexy, Ed Maggiani, if you've, you like that segue? It was fun.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
don't try. But if you've gone through the dealer room, you inevitably have seen some amazing James Bond replicas. I mean, just incredibly accurate, and then even some very imaginative ones that have been kind of cut, as if you could see inside the gadget itself. And Ed has created those. Ed, what got you into doing things like this?
Seriously, it was the one prop that you'll see out there if you come by the table. It was called a proximity mine from GoldenEye. It's just a round thing with 4 little legs on it. And for the movie, all they did was use the joystick. They cut the joystick handle off and put some magnets on the bottom of it. But on the side, there's a series of LED lights. And they have to go specifically on either side of this little, kind of like a bubbly little pimply thing. Well, the one day I went to make one of these props, and after drilling 3 holes, I realized that I put them in the wrong spot. So the prop was worthless, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? And that's when I thought, oh, because I had been interested in seeing different cutaway versions of airplanes and, you know, guns and things like that. So it kind of gave me the idea of, well, if I cut the bad section that I just screwed up, I can manufacture some pieces and make it look like a cutaway that reveals what's inside of what, in my imagination, could be inside there. So I saved something that I screwed up by taking it one step further.
And by the way, we should step back for a moment. So the reality is that people want to capture a piece of Bond. So it could be, you know, I'm wearing an Omega watch right now. That's my little Bond moment to look down and escape the craziness of corporate life sometimes. But Ed is actually a prop guru in the sense that he makes these prop replicas for people all over the world. Has for many years. Has actually worked with Q, Desmond Llewellyn, for commercials and things like that. In fact, we have a picture. You probably didn't know this, but I'm gonna take this down because this is worth seeing. But Ed was actually in one of the scenes with Goldfinger with Desmond Llewellyn. So that's not really him. This is photoshopped. But I like to embarrass him a little bit. I'm gonna try to take it down. Remember this one?
Yeah, sorry.
But the reality is, I mean, we all wanted to capture a piece of Bond, whether it's collecting DVDs, getting an autograph from a celebrity, or creating a prop. But Ed, did you start making the props for yourself first, and then people started begging you for
Oh,
them?
in that respect?
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah, because people had, so I did start making them for myself, specifically. And then with a friend of ours at the time, Steve Dimzo, actually went after, pursued, and obtained the license to do replica props from the Bond series. And he did 4 or 5 of them. Eventually that license kind of fell away, but I continued it only because there was props that I wanted that you couldn't buy anywhere. So I figured I got to make them. If I can't get them, I'm going to have to make them myself. And through different forums on the internet, this one particularly called Absolutely James Bond, AJB is what we refer to it as. A lot of talented prop makers from all over the world kind of all meet there and kind of share different stories and ideas and things like that. And we all started making individualized props, and we all started sharing each other. And now we buy something from someone in Belgium who made something, or somebody would buy something from me in Japan. So it just grew into a whole industry.
And let's be frank. So Ed is the Walter White of James Bond props, because he got me into collecting. He sold me my first. So
that actually segues into a question I had, and it seems more appropriate now that you said that. Bond is such an acutely constructed, deliberately constructed image, and I'm curious about his hair, particularly Daniel Craig. What's up here? And who decides what his haircut is going to be? Do they sit around a table and sketch, or do they just throw a hairdresser?
Yes, they can. They can, absolutely.
Also,
The director gets an idea, the producer has an idea. Yeah, with Bond, it would be, a little bit more carefully thought of, and
laser sharp.
yeah.
Jenny Tamine, who is the costume designer for the last of Skyfall and Spectre, actually works with both wardrobe, obviously, as well as makeup and hair. And in Skyfall, they went for a very military cut, very tight upon the head. In this particular one, it's a little bit longer. It's a little bit more like Casino Royale. But yeah,
Which one do you mean, the Spectre?
Correct.
Yeah,
it's a little bit
That's
longer.
the best one.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, they're very into the image.
Are they English?
Yes, exactly. And Daniel Craig has a major hand in picking out the clothes. Tom Ford was his designer. He picked out Tom Ford and then worked with Lindy Hemming at the time to get the Tom Ford suits. The Billy Reed jacket that he wears in Skyfall, it's like a peacoat jacket that he has.
Yeah.
That was his personal jacket, and he told him that he wanted to use it for the movie. So you never know where the influence is going to come from.
Is it a different person per film, or is it sort of the same team who just progresses the image?
It's sometimes different. Janet Tamine did it for Skyfall on this one, but Lindy Hemming did it for the other Daniel Craig
But
movies.
that's not the actual cutter, the actual person.
Oh, no, that's costume and wardrobe.
That is.
I'm not sure.
Somebody really good.
You want to hear something really creepy, though? We do know the hair product he used in Casino Royale. Now I'm really ashamed. It's Paul Mitchell. It's a spray. What do you want? Everybody get out. But they do, because people are so hungry to understand the life of Bond that sometimes they'll jump the shark and go to Daniel Craig or Lana Wood and try to find out a little bit more about them just to capture that moment.
Sure.
Which I think is interesting. Questions? Yeah.
Asking this of all of you, who would you like to see as the next James Bond when Daniel Craig kind of hangs it up?
I don't know. Idris.
Is he
I
likely?
don't know.
Is he likely?
That's just a rumor.
It is. It's just a rumor. It's just a rumor, but it's rampant.
Yeah.
Well, they say that they have a history of some pretend leaks of who's going to be there.
Right. Well, yeah. I don't know. There isn't anybody who comes to mind for me.
It's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
I liked for a time Henry Cavill.
Oh, I love.
But now he's in the Uncle film, so
Right.
now I'm going to have to
Yeah,
do
and
the
he was
transition.
Superman.
He was Superman, yeah.
But yeah, he's terrific. I need somebody a little grittier.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of him on my iPad. Oh my God, look at this guy.
It's got more views in the Casino Royale, too.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's tough. I'm having trouble,
Tom
too.
Hardy?
But I mean, like,
Someone British.
years
Yeah,
ago, it was
it
like
should
the writing.
be. I think so, yeah.
For years ago, the writing was so on the wall about Pierce Brosnan becoming James Bond,
Mm.
right? Because of the Remington Steele thing and everything.
Right.
It's kind of like the big gossip for a few years,
Yeah.
you know.
That's true. Well, he almost got the part, right? I mean, he couldn't get out of his contract, to your point.
Yeah.
So it was this horrible tease for him.
Right.
He was out of contract, but they would cancel the series, so he was all set to go, and right before he was set to go, they said, come back. He wasn't too happy about that.
I can imagine. Any other questions?
Who would you like to see as the next
back up. So.
Yeah, the types of villains.
No, I think times have changed, and I would like to see more realistic villains. So I think there again, the Broccoli family as a whole, I mean, they really know their James Bond, and I go with whatever it is they decide.
I like that answer. So I'm of two minds. I have a nostalgic mind that loves, in your movie, someone stroking a cat wearing a maroon jacket.
Yeah, but that was then, and this is now.
I totally agree.
You know
So
what
that's
I
my
mean?
other mind, is
Yeah.
that there's something very suspenseful. And I think we forget sometimes that James Bond films are suspenseful. Like
Yes.
the new trailer,
Yes.
people were like, where's the action? Where's the gadgets? And I'm like, no, it's a puzzle. It's suspenseful. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. So a realistic villain will do that.
Yeah.
What about you, Ed? Crazy or?
I love the crazy Blofeld guy. I have to harken back to the old days. And I don't know, because maybe I was brought up with that from the very beginning, and it was the, Dr. No with the clammy hands. So, it was like the real over-the-top guys. But I'm nostalgic for that.
I am too.
But I'll settle with whatever they want.
But then you can watch the old films and enjoy them. I know.
Especially Diamond.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah?
So good.
What would be your favorite car? And it's such, James Bond and the Aston Martin seem to go together, but let's put the Aston Martins aside. What would be your favorite car?
Are you asking that of all of us?
All three. Anybody has that?
I mean, I love the White Lotus. I just think it looks like, it's unbelievable. It's beautiful. It's a piece of art.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would of course said Aston Martin DB5 first, but that's a
Yes.
cliche answer,
Yes.
so you pushed me in a different direction. But definitely the White Lotus, before and after the gadgets, all flared up, I just think it's amazing. And you want to buy a lot of time?
I love the DB5.
Yeah, I do too. I've got to
to
stay with that one as well.
I mean, to me, the DB5 is the James Bond car. The PPK is the James Bond gun.
Yeah.
And the vodka martini shaken, not stirred, is the James Bond.
So it's not Heineken, no?
Not even. Not mine.
I knew that would get it. That's why.
It's all that stuff has been burned into the psyche of the Western world.
Sure.
The dinner jacket, the car, the gun, the hair parted slightly. It's all, you put that on any poster anywhere in the world, and somebody will say, that's James Bond.
Absolutely. Well, which gentleman out there has tried on a tuxedo and hasn't looked in the mirror and just straightened it out or did the cuff and did this? I mean, we all do. And you're laughing because you do, and you can deny it, but you do. And that's because it really, it infests us. It becomes a part of us, and that's actually okay. Because it's a bit of community. It's actually positive. And you had a question?
Going back to, as an actress or an actor, coming up with your own backstory, which is not official and like that, and some people really go, really deep with it.
Yes.
Right? Have you ever come up with your own backstory, which is, it's not really going to be used, it's just there for you, and got to the set and you're ready to film and found it was totally against kind of what the director had in mind? Not against, but alternate.
No, because you do meet with the director and speak to the director before you begin filming. It doesn't happen on the spot generally. You do meet beforehand. And you're really not cast in something unless the director has already decided that you are right for the role and sees what you can bring to it. So you've met with the producer, you've met with the director, and they go, yeah, no, her. So,
That means something like, say in your backstory, you said, oh, this character has two sisters.
you know what, they don't really care about that as
Yeah.
long as how you bring that forth and how you are externalizing those things, as long as that works for what their vision is. They don't care how you get to the party, as long as when you arrive, you're the happy person that they want to see.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Makes sense. Any other questions? Well, first of all, I've got to thank Lana for taking our questions and spending time with us.
My pleasure. It's a delight.
Giving us a peek back. And
Yes.
I loved it. And Ed, as usual, always. I've known Ed for forever.
Too long.
Since I've been a child. So thank you for coming in. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you
spending
very
this time.
much.
One other thing too, because unfortunately we did have technical difficulties, we had some amazing visuals. And collecting pieces and behind the scenes of some of the branding stuff as well. Before you leave, I'll give you a card and it'll send you to a link to this particular PowerPoint. So you can download it, you can look at it, you can share it and love it, and you'll see what you missed. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.